Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started. I've got this recording now, so please know that you'll be on here for posterity if you choose to leave your camera on. Good afternoon. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look today at what the upcoming assessments are like, some information that you need to know, and then we will get connected with resources and other things that are available to you. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen, and then we'll move from there. So again, the agenda for today is kind of, we're going to, again, because we've got so many new people on, I'm just going to real quickly show you some of the resources that are available, where you can find this. We're going to get a little bit, take a little bit of a breather and just kind of step back and say, okay, how did fall screening go? Were there any major issues that we can attend to make sure things went smoother, go much more smoothly next time, etc. We have already talked about some of the tech issues and solutions that were out there, but there will be a reminder about upcoming assessments. We will check in just briefly about data use, and then we're going to move into newer information. So we'll close with questions and make sure that you all have time to address any of those issues that are burning and you want some answers to. So let's just jump into the resources. So once again, we have an assessment website, a web page, that if you were to click onto that, that will take you to that page, and it will look something like this. So we've got it laid out by grade levels. So if you were to be looking for resources for you as an assessment coordinator, click on elementary school staff. It'll take you to the staff only side. And on that side, you will see things like, what are the assessments by grade level? And so if you have questions as well about Madison Promise, you can find them here. So as I scroll a little bit further on, you'll see that we've got specific things like the calendars, but there's also the assessment coordinator resource page. I'm going to click on that right now, and that will take you to the resource page for today's meeting, for instance. And on this, we have the running agenda. So there will be notes there from, I appreciate Sarah, who is taking notes today, as always, on the agenda. And you'll find resources linked within that so that you can have quick reference to those if you want. Also, you will find today's slide deck under the October 2022. And then the recording will be placed here once it is done. So hopefully by tomorrow morning, it will be up. I will be breaking it out by section. So if you're really only interested in reviewing or seeing the section called regarding access for ELs, you will know what time that actually starts in the video. So you don't have to watch and listen to me the whole time. Finally, over on the left, you'll see the calendar is here. So if you haven't added that to your own Google Calendar, you can do that by simply clicking the plus at the bottom of that. So let me continue. Keeping in mind also that this is, there are office hours that are available for you every Monday afternoon. And I realize that not everybody can make a Monday afternoon meeting, but know that someone in our department is available and monitoring those all the time. The Zoom link is here in the agenda, or excuse me, in the slide deck. It will also be in the agenda. And if Monday at 2 o'clock doesn't suit you in your schedule, please reach out to us and we will always be happy to connect and help support you as best we can. All right, so we had some screening this past month or so. There were some issues with ClassLink. I'm just hoping that we got that taken care of. I believe everybody's back up and running, but I'd like to just kind of take a moment and see if there's any burning issues that that you have that were not resolved, that we can be better service to you in the schools as we try and move forward. So if you have some scathing critique of how we handle things, please email me, okay? We'll make sure that we respond to that. But if you've got some little suggestions, things that might help, now would be a great time. So I'll just pause here for a second. I know we're also in the middle currently of the PALS 4K administration. So hopefully that's going well and you're getting, your team gets what they need. Please do not hesitate to email us and say, you know, this could have been done better, or thank you for your support, or whatever you'd like. We'd appreciate any feedback. So let's talk about the climate survey that's coming up. In fact, that's upon us right now. So the Research and Innovation Department has created a climate survey, and I believe this is all set for grades 3 through 12. So we're talking about some of our older elementary students. They will receive this climate survey through a link through their email account, their MMSD email. One of the questions that always comes up with the climate survey is what's the participation rate that we have to make? So really in conversation with the associate superintendents, just like to point out that they would really like to hear from all students who have in the appropriate grade levels. So we're looking for all students. Now, in order to make that happen, it really works best, especially when you're talking about students who have not done something like this before. It would be great if you could make a little bit of time. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes to do the climate survey, time to do the climate survey in the next 3 weeks. So the window opens today and closes at the end of October. So what does that mean as far as everybody? Well, if you give people a chance students a chance to actually respond to this, and some of them are not there, or because they're absent, just give them one more chance. So a total of 2 opportunities would be great. If you can't do that, please make it a really good effort at including everybody in that first time through. There is more information in the last administrator's bulletin, so principals will have access to that. But also we put some information in the agenda today, and you'll find a document linked there. If there's any questions about the survey itself, technical issues, you can reach out to us. But what we're going to do is we're going to reach then out and forward your questions onto the research team, because it's their project. So just want to give you a heads up about that. Okay, Apple. Apple is an assessment that is designed to help us, especially with our DLI students, to see where they are at as they are progressing in their learning of a language other than English. And for DLI, at this moment, we're talking only about Spanish. Because of the changes in curriculum, because that the new ELA curriculum does include some ways of ensuring that students have access and are progressing, we're not going to be doing Apple at grades 3 through 5 this year. You will find kind of a summary document linked in the slide deck, and we can also put that into the agenda. But I know there's always questions and concerns, especially since we have not done the Apple at grades 3 through 5 for so many years now. It would require probably a lot of professional development just so that people understand what it is. So since there are many of the components embedded in the new curriculum, the decision has been made not to add this and not be doing duplicate assessments at those grade levels. The question is, will we be doing ANET this year? And the answer is no, we will not. We will not be doing ANET this year. And we, again, are looking at ensuring that we get as much as possible from the fewest possible assessments, so that really we focus on taking the time and ensuring that all students get the instruction that they need. Okay. Now we're going to talk about something that, again, is also new, and we haven't done this for a number of years. A number of years ago, we did something called the COGAT, which was the Cognitive Abilities Test. This was to look at the way that students think and solve problems. It was used as one of the pieces as the advanced learning team looks at students and for additional supports and program. And so it is not like the gatekeeper. It is just a different way of checking to see how are students thinking, and do we have students who are really strong in ways that don't come out in the typical assessments that we have, like the forward assessment. And so I want to take you into the Naglieri just briefly. This is a nonverbal problem-solving screener. So the Naglieri does not require anything beyond the instructions that are available in English and Spanish. The assessment itself is something like this. It is designed to fill in the patterns. And so a student would be looking at the pattern that is given here, and they would be expected to look across the bottom and determine which one of those 5 actually fits in that box that is in the lower right-hand corner. So it would be something that does not require the knowledge of English language. So this is for grade 2 students only. And this will be coming up the 1st of November through the 18th of November. The AL specialist will be connecting with your principal and your grade 2 team and working on what kind of a schedule we can do, put into place to ensure that we can collect this data from students. This does replace the COGAT screener, so it is a replacement, not a brand new. Question, if you don't have an AL specialist, is there someone? Yes, we will make sure that the AL team reaches out to you, Vanessa, and make sure that all your students have this available to them. There will be letters that will be available translated prior to the assessment window, the screening window, and it will be in all 3 languages that we typically translate into. Now, here's another example of what this might look like. It is computer-based. So one of the things we talked about in the agenda, it said technology troubleshooting. Here is, again, one of the things that's really critical. Your 2nd graders, if they are not using their Chromebooks on a daily basis, we should be restarting those. So hitting the power button and restarting those, because one of the things that happens as Chromebooks sit is that their operating system ages out. So we had some issues with students who were trying to take the FastBridge assessments screeners this fall, excuse me, and their computer wouldn't let them. Turns out that their operating system, the Chromebook itself, had not been updated for at least 10 versions. And so it's a good thing to do that on a very regular basis, is just to simply restart your Chromebook. So since it is computer-based, all students will need to have a Chromebook. They will be able to complete this in 30 minutes. It is it's 30 minutes of time. It does not count against them if they do not finish all the questions. It's simply that there needs to be a start and an end time. The instructions take about 15 minutes to go through. So the total time will be approximately 45 minutes once all the students are ready and their Chromebooks are open and on, and they should be able to do this. The critical piece, especially for second graders, is the login. That's always an issue. So we are in the process of ensuring that will be available in Class Link. And so that there is a tile, an icon that will be on students' Chromebooks prior to that. And I know that our tech services team has been working today to ensure that that is all ready to roll on the 1st of November. So we can be assured that that's going to be there. So I just wanted to give you kind of a summary of this. Reach out to your AL person, and if you don't have an AL person specialist assigned to you, I will make sure that you get connected to Sharon Alexander, John Roth, or Amy Sheridan, the team that works out of central office for advanced learners, and they will connect with you about scheduling. Okay, so the big piece today, this time we're going to spend the most amount of time on, is the access for English language learners. Just a reminder that access itself is something very similar to what Apple is, and as I explained with Apple, it's a proficiency, language proficiency assessment. The access is an English language proficiency and is designed for our English language learners. So they need to take this annually so that they can see, we can see the progress as they move from not speaking English or speaking English and understanding it at a low level to a high level, so that they become proficient in the English language. It does fulfill both state and federal requirements. And it also provides us all kinds of data that's used in many of different situations as we move forward. So I want to give you a rundown of kind of what the timeline is. There's a lot of words here, but I'm going to go through it just so you, because I don't like to use this many words on a page. So the access timeline, let's see, this is what I wanted. AMS is the software that we use that is from the vendor that is used to support not only the access test, but also the WIDA screener. Access coordinators, you will have access to this AMS beginning by this Friday if you don't already have that. So we're in the process of adding you to the list. And if anybody else needs to have access to AMS, please let us know and we'll make sure that that happens. Also going on behind the scenes, things that you need to be aware of, but just you don't have to do anything, is at this moment, student accommodations are going to be pulled next Friday from OASIS. So if there are students that have not, their IEP is open right now, or if it is being reviewed and it changes, those accommodations need to be adjusted at a later date. But we're trying to get this all done ahead of time so that you can get the best possible setup ahead of time versus in the moment. Jessica will make sure that you have access to that. Thanks. So once that is done, once the student accommodations are pulled and in place on Friday the 21st, we're going to send you, Sarah, I should say, is going to send you an email with a list of students by school. So you'll get, as the coordinator, you'll get a list of students who are expected to take the access for English language learners. Now, this list is going to be all students who are identified as a 1 through a 5, or who have never taken the access test. Students, excuse me, 4.9. Students at 5 and above will not be expected to test. In fact, we don't want them to do this because that will pull them back into the system. So all students who are identified as English language learners lower than a 5 on their proficiency level are expected to test regardless of whether or not they have chosen to receive services. So you may have had a student whose parents said, okay, they are an English language learner, we get that, we're not going to take services from the school. That's great. They still are expected to take the access test. So you'll get a list of students who are expected to test. You'll also see on that list students who have accommodations. There will be highlighted on that list students who have open IEPs. So that's the piece that we'll need to kind of close the loop on. You'll need to be able to check with your team to say, what is it? What are the accommodations that they actually need for access? So for us and the assessment office and the assessment team, the test setup starts on November 1st. You will be receiving your tickets, because this is ticket driven. For those of you who have not been a part of this, this is ticket driven, and you will be receiving your tickets after any changes have been made, after the accommodations list has been returned to us, and then Sarah has a chance to go through that. The tickets will be to you prior to Thanksgiving break. DPI is also pulling student information from IC, so students will be uploaded in the not too distant future. So as students are added, one of the things that our team does is a daily pull of students that will need to be added to the access for ELS. Keep in mind that a student arrives, let's just say the 5th of January. So we're just back from winter break. Student arrives, they still need to go through the screening process. If they're enrolled and any of the boxes are checked, they have to do WIDA screener, and then they will be uploaded into the AMS system for access. So while the vast majority of students are pulled into the system early, as students enroll, they will, or whether they're from another school district in Wisconsin, et cetera, as they enroll, we'll need to continue to add them to the list. All right, so Thanksgiving break happens and you will get your tickets. Once we return from Thanksgiving, so on the 28th, materials are expected to arrive in the district, not to schools. So the materials that you will be getting would be the writing booklets for students in 1 through 3, and any other materials that are needed for the kindergarten. Yes, thank you, Sarah. So kindergarten materials as well will be arriving at that point. We will be in the warehouse that day when they arrive and checking them in and getting them out to you as soon as possible, hopefully that same day, but expect them by the 30th. Now, if you have been through this before, they are bright yellow boxes. Most people don't mistake them for anything else but access testing materials. So look for the bright yellow boxes coming your way prior to December 1st, because that's when the test window opens. So if you take a look at the test window date opening on December 1st, and then skip a bullet, you'll see that winter break begins on the 21st. We do have a big chunk of time in December to actually get a good jump, a head start on doing the access testing. In fact, I would strongly urge you to start as soon as possible, because as you begin to look at the rest of these dates that's marked on here, winter break returning on January 4th, MLK Day on the 16th, end of semester on the 20th, and finally the window closes on the 27th. January gets pretty tight. And so if we were to have a snow day, that does not get added on to the close of the window. That just means you have one less day in order to actually do the rest of the assessment. Thank you, Megan. Staff only day on December 5th. So yes, I mean, you can see that even though it seems like we've got all of December and all of January, thinking about this and planning ahead for it now is really important. Again, we'll go into more detail next month, but keep in mind that there are 4 components of the access, that the access test consists of first doing the listening and the reading component. And once you've gotten that done, you then get a placement, a level placement for the speaking and writing components. So you have to do 2 assessments first. You'll get some placement information and then finish that up. So it's typically multiple days that you go through in order to get this done. If you need additional materials as we go, for instance, one of the things that you'll get on early December, late November, you'll get the writing booklets, as I alluded to. It'll be grade 1, tier A, grade 1, tier B, and tier C, so BC. If you run out of a booklet, let us know as soon as possible. If you're getting low, for instance, you have more than expected tier A. It does take us 3 days to order and get in place additional materials. So if you're getting low, let us know ahead of time and we'll order some extras so that you have them in place. We do have a small buffer of material, so we'll try and get that out. But if all of a sudden there's a push to get a particular grade band and their writing booklets, we might run out ourselves. So please be patient, give us a heads up ahead of time, and make sure that we get all the material in place when you need it. We will go into much more detail specifically about the timing of all of these, about the process next month. However, in the meantime, please consider the professional development that goes through the WIDA website. So if you go to wida.wisc.edu, you should be able to, if you have an account already, you should be able to get in and do the professional development. Just a refresher, because we want to make sure that when we administer this, it is done as best as this can possibly be done. If you don't have a WIDA account, if you've never been through the access assessment itself, let us know and we'll set you up with an account. So there will be a communication about this that goes out to all access coordinators, to BRTs, and anyone else involved in this process. Okay. Those of you who have done this as well in years past know that there is, at the same time that access is going on, so December 1st through January 27th, there is something called the alternate access. And that is for students who have IEPs that within the IEP say they need to have an alternate assessment. Typically, they are also the students who are doing the dynamic learning maps but not always, in the regular and the forward assessment. So that being said, so we've got the access test and we've got the alternate access test during that initial window, that December 1 through January 27th. So yeah, we have a field test for the alternate access this year. That is an additional alternate access assessment that will be running from the 14th of February through approximately the 17th of March. So we have almost a 2-month window there to do an additional alternate access. Now, let me explain what this is. Every single standardized assessment has within it questions that the vendor is field testing, meaning here's a new question that we wrote. Let's see how students perform on it. We're not going to count this as a question in the score, but we want students to take this in a live setting. So for instance, in the forward test, there will be a couple questions in each content area that are not scored, that are being checked out whether they are valid and reliable by the vendor. With the access assessment, they have decided to do this in a different way. They have said, we're not going to add additional questions that are not scored into the alternate access. We're going to give you a separate alternate access assessment that is designed for a field test. Its scores are not included in the DPI level for those particular students. And again, we're talking about a small number of students who would normally take the dynamic learning map assessment, or likely would do that, and have the alternate access in their IEPs. So not everyone with an IEP takes this. The state window actually goes through nearly the end of April on this, and we're not going to do that. That's just too much. We know that the 20th of March is when the forward test starts, and it gets too busy. So we're saying, let's do this earlier on in the window. So February through March, we will be doing the alternate access. Again, more information, the alternate access field test. More information will come at a later date on that when we get more information. All right, that's a lot of information, but I also just want to share with you again, if you have questions about data, if you have questions about the assessment, if you have any questions at all, here's members of our team in our department, and please don't hesitate to check in with us. I'm going to stop sharing, and then we'll go through questions, see what questions you have. And I know that there was a couple in the chat. How will you know which students need to take the alt access? That will be in that list of students that you get from us that says, here are all the students that are taking the, that are required to take access. And there will be something in there on their accommodations that says they will be taking the alternate access.
Tim, can I interrupt for just a second?
Please.
The best way to understand who's going to be taking the alternate access is kids that are not being held to the same standards as their peers. So all of their curriculum has been changed. You know, they're students who have significant cognitive disabilities. DPI said it should be like maybe 3% of your population should be taking it. So it's a very small number of students. And then when you're looking at students that are going to be taking that for the DLM, then there's even a smaller percentage that are going to be taking the alternate access. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, replace curriculum. That's exactly right. Okay, that's it.
And yes, Patty, I absolutely agree that testing is anxiety producing for anyone, let alone students who are struggling in school. And then on top of it, having the additional, I want to say, barrier of learning a second language or a third or fourth, but learning English. I have pushed back on the state on this and will continue to do that, because it is just, it's like, okay, it's a hardship for all students and staff who are involved in this. It is not an easy thing that I take lightly, and that's why I took a deep breath before I even shared that with you, but I needed to make sure you understood that this is something that is coming from the state, and it will produce in the end a better assessment for these students in the future years, because they're redesigning how the alternate access actually works. So I agree with you 100%. Please know that, and we'll continue to push on the state to say, let's make this as painless as possible.
And then can I just say one other thing?
Yeah.
So as far as them being removed, students not being opted out of doing the field test, it scares me a little bit to suggest that we do that, because we have a really hard time now with people understanding that no student who is identified as having to take the access test or the alternate access can be opted out. So then if we say, well, you can be for this one, but not that one, I think it's just going to cause a really big headache. That's just my thoughts.
Yes, thank you, Peg. I apologize. I knew there was something that I had forgotten to say. The access is the one assessment that families may not opt out of. So that is per the state and federal legislation, and the school board is also on board with that. So they cannot opt out of taking the access assessment. Now, if families refuse, that's a whole different story, and we'll talk in detail about that next time. But again, thanks, Peg, for bringing that up. Opting out is not something that we should be doing, especially with our students that are struggling the most. I know that puts added stress on the system, but it also is it's something that we need to, first of all, do for our students in the future, as well as making sure that we are upholding what we are expected to do legally. So I'm going to stop recording right now and thank everyone for your attendance, your attention. And I will hang out, and Sarah will hang out, and Peg will hang out for a little while and see if there are other questions. So thanks very much.